There's something really wrong with the motorcycle market in 2025, and whether you and I admit it or not, it's really bad. Tons of newly released bikes are sitting untouched in showrooms with no one to buy them. But this is only the beginning, because the motorcycle movement is starting to fade, and there are a couple of reasons why that is happening. What are these reasons, you might ask? Well, that's what we're going to talk about in this video. But before we get into the details, if you want to get first-hand information on the recent happenings in the motorcycle industry, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. It helps me keep putting out important information like this to keep you informed on what's going on in the industry. The fall of motorcycles. Walk into almost any motorcycle dealership in 2025 and you'll see it. Rows of brand new bikes gleaming under the showroom lights, tires still wrapped in factory fresh sheen, untouched seats begging for someone to swing a leg over. Salespeople are getting nervous. Not panicked, not yet, but definitely fidgety. There are more bikes on the floor than people walking through the door, and even when someone does walk in, they're more likely to be asking for merch than a machine. The problem isn't supply chain delays anymore. It's not about chip shortages, emissions laws, or even gas prices. The problem is simpler and more brutal. Nobody wants these bikes. 2025 was supposed to be a landmark year. Sleeker, faster, smarter motorcycles, electrification, next-gen safety tech. But somewhere between the marketing buzzwords and the drawing board, motorcycle manufacturers seem to have forgotten one crucial thing. Riders don't want to feel like they're piloting a spaceship. They want to ride a motorcycle, something raw, mechanical, and fun. Instead, the bikes of 2025 feel like over-engineered gadgets trapped in two wheels of midlife crisis. They're not thrilling enough to excite seasoned riders, not simple or affordable enough to attract newcomers, and way too confused about who they're even built for. And so they sit, abandoned at the dealership. The problem with over-engineering. Let's get one thing straight. Innovation is awesome. Fuel injection was innovation. ABS was innovation. Liquid cooling was a gift from the gods of efficiency and performance. But somewhere along the way, motorcycle manufacturers stopped asking why they were adding tech and just started adding it because, well, everyone else was doing it. Enter the 2025 spec sheet arms race. Bikes these days have adaptive cruise control, blind spot monitoring, Bluetooth-controlled suspension, cornering ABS, traction control with 6 modes, quick shifters, lean angle sensors, tire pressure monitors, auto-dimming TFT displays, smartphone integration. In fact, there are motorcycles that ask you to update their firmware before your Sunday ride. What used to be a weekend escape now feels like troubleshooting a smart fridge. The core issue isn't the tech itself, it's the fact that most of it adds complexity, cost, and confusion without actually improving the ride. It's like trying to improve a slice of pizza by sprinkling it with truffle oil, gold flakes, and quinoa. Cool in theory, but did anyone ask for that? And let's talk reliability. All this tech doesn't just disappear when you're done using it. It sticks around, waiting to fail. Sensors get dirty, electronics glitch, software bugs show up mid-corner. Suddenly, you're on the phone with tech support trying to figure out why your traction control won't disable, while your buddy on a 20-year-old Honda just wheelied past you with a grin. And there's another sneakier side effect of this tech overload. It's erasing the individuality of the ride. Bikes that used to have distinct personalities now feel eerily similar once the computers take over. Everything is smoothed out, sanitized, predictable. The fun quirks that gave bikes character, a twitchy throttle, a clunky shifter, that bit of wobble at 90 miles per hour, have all been engineered into extinction. And in place of that rawness is a sterile riding experience that's so safe and smart it's practically boring. It's like going on a roller coaster that's been reprogrammed to gently ease around every curve. Yeah, you'll stay upright, but where's the thrill? Even the user interface has become a nightmare. Remember when you just twisted the key and fired it up? Now you've got to agree to terms and conditions, pair your helmet, swipe through 3 menus, and maybe, if your bike isn't syncing to the cloud, you'll be allowed to hit the starter. And all this in a parking lot under the sun while your friends are already halfway to the canyon. And let's not ignore the price tag this nonsense brings. A basic adventure bike now starts at 15 grand, and that's before you add the tech package, the connectivity suite, and the Safety Plus module. Suddenly, you're staring down 20 grand for a middleweight that just wants to nag you like a digital backseat rider. At this point, the industry isn't innovating, it's inflating. Inflating prices, features, the illusion of progress, while the core joy of riding gets buried under code and plastic. You know things are off the rails when the most exciting feature on your new bike is that the dash can mirror Google Maps. It's not progress, it's padding, and riders are starting to notice. That's why these bikes are piling up, untouched and unsold, like shiny overpriced paperweights. They've been over-designed into irrelevance. Stuck in the past. You'd think with all this next-gen tech, motorcycle companies would be future-focused. But oddly enough, many of the biggest brands are still designing bikes like it's 2005 and their average customer wears leather chaps unironically. Harley Davidson, Indian, Royal Enfield, they're not just selling nostalgia, they're trapped in it. There's nothing wrong with heritage. It's great to respect your roots, but when your entire model lineup is built around what used to work for a generation that's now more concerned about knee replacements than knee dragging, you've got a problem. Harley's still chasing the bad boy cruiser dream with touring bikes the size of studio apartments and price tags that scream midlife crisis. Indian's locked into the same mold, pitching muscle cruisers to an audience that remembers watching Easy Rider in theaters. And Royal Enfield is still trying to sell the idea that a 350cc thumper with 1950s charm is somehow the bike of tomorrow. Meanwhile, the customers they're targeting, the 50-plus crowd with cash to burn, are slowly aging out of riding altogether. It's not their fault. Time is undefeated, but manufacturers don't seem to have a backup plan. They're still banking on boomer loyalty and bar and shield branding, while the next generation of riders is left wondering, where's the bike for me? And this isn't just about cruisers. Even sport and adventure bikes are getting locked into repetitive design cycles, repackaging old frames, rehashing tired engines, and throwing a TFT dash on top like it's supposed to distract from the fact we've all seen this bike before, 3 times. The result is a whole lineup of motorcycles that feel less like new ideas and more like tribute bands. Sure, they might hit the notes, but there's no soul, no direction, no attempt to actually understand what younger, modern riders want, whether that's electric innovation, urban versatility, or just a bike that doesn't weigh 800 pounds fully dressed. And so the dealerships fill up with machines built for ghosts, riders who aren't showing up anymore. The bikes look impressive under the lights, but they don't connect with anyone. They're answers to questions no one's asking. A throwback to a time that isn't coming back. The copycat crisis. Here's another problem that no one wants to talk about. Almost every 2025 motorcycle looks, feels, and rides the same. Doesn't matter if it's a Japanese naked bike, an American ADV, or a European retro, chances are it's just a remix of someone else's idea, reheated and resold with a different badge on the tank. You want a middleweight street fighter? Cool. Here are 6 of them from 6 brands, all with nearly identical specs, matching price tags, and styling so edgy, they practically come with a flat-brimmed hat. You like retro? Perfect. You can pick from 5 fake classic bikes with faux carburetors and just enough vibration to make you think it's authentic. It's not competition anymore, it's mimicry. One company makes a modular scrambler with a brown seat, and suddenly, they all do. One company adds a weird hexagonal headlight, and within a year, everyone has a weird hexagonal headlight. Adventure bikes used to be purpose-built personalities. Now they all look like space insects on stilts. And don't get me started on electric bikes. Instead of building bold new identities for EVs, most brands are just trying to make them look like gas bikes, right down to the fake tank and artificial engine noises. It's like watching someone fake a British accent and thinking that's all it takes to get into Shakespeare. Where's the risk-taking? Where's the weird, wild creativity that gave us bikes like the B-King, the Ducati Sport Classic, or even the quirky little Grom? Instead, companies are so afraid of alienating customers that they've started playing design bingo. Angular tail section? Check. Single-sided swing arm? Check. Neosport heritage branding? Triple check. And it's not just aesthetics. Performance figures are homogenized too. Most new bikes land somewhere between 90 to 120 horsepower, with electronics packages that read like carbon copies. It's like every engineer is sneakily peeking at their competitor's homework and just changing a few numbers to avoid getting caught. So when people walk into dealerships today, they don't see options, they see clones. And when bikes all look the same, ride the same, and cost the same, buyers start asking a dangerous question. Why should I buy any of them at all? The price tag problem. At this point, stepping into a motorcycle dealership feels less like shopping and more like entering a luxury jewelry store where the salesperson is trying to convince you that a $22,000 ring is a smart investment. Except instead of a diamond, you're getting a 650cc bike with cruise control and a quick shifter. Let's be real, the price creep is out of control. 10 years ago, a solid middleweight naked bike cost around $8,000. It was basic, yeah, but it was fun, fast, and durable. Today, that same class of bike is creeping past $11,000, and for what? A color dash? An app that syncs with your smartwatch? And a button that toggles ride modes you'll never touch again after week 2? Manufacturers love to frame it as added value, but riders aren't fooled. Because here's the truth. All that extra tech isn't optional anymore. It's baked into the base price. You're not choosing to pay for it, you have to. Want the stripped down model with just a throttle and 2 wheels? Sorry, that version doesn't exist anymore. Now you get the Pro Plus edition whether you like it or not. And then there's the upsell game. Want heated grips? That's a $500 comfort package. Want to unlock the quick shifter you already physically have installed? That's $299 for a software code. Yes, they're charging extra to turn on features already built into the bike. It's like buying a fridge and then being told you have to pay monthly to use the freezer. Dealership fees aren't helping either. Between assembly charges, documentation processing, destination fees, and the mysterious market adjustment, you can easily watch a 12K MSRP balloon to 15 grand before you even sign the papers. Oh, and don't forget financing, because at these prices, cash buyers are an endangered species. Meanwhile, used bikes are holding value better than ever, not because they're rare, but because people are avoiding buying new. Why fork over 18 grand for something with a complicated tech suite and mandatory service intervals when you can grab a reliable 2015 model for half the price and double the character? It's no longer about affordability, it's about principle. Riders are realizing that they're being asked to pay premium prices for bikes that are bloated, boring, and built to serve a tech roadmap rather than a soul. And they're saying no thanks with their wallets. The buyer revolt. You won't see it on TV commercials or Instagram ads, but a quiet rebellion is brewing. And it's not just the old school purists, it's everyday riders, weekend warriors, and first timers who walk into a showroom, see what's on offer, and walk right back out. They're not angry, they're disillusioned, because for all the hype, the new generation of motorcycles just doesn't speak to them. It doesn't connect. It doesn't stir that fire in your gut that made you want to ride in the first place. And without that emotional pull, without that hell yes moment when you see a bike and know it's the one, people are just moving on. Some are sticking to their older bikes. Others are diving into custom builds, vintage restos, or buying used and investing in personalization. A growing number are even walking away from two wheels altogether, trading in the dream for something simpler, or something that just makes more sense for the money. And here's the kicker, these buyers want to be excited. They're not rooting against new bikes, they're hungry for innovation, style, fun, something that surprises them. But what they're being offered is the motorcycle equivalent of a subscription-based toaster with a touchscreen. It's uninspired, overpriced. It's kind of exhausting. The result? Brand new 2025 models sitting in showrooms like showroom furniture, untouched, unbought, and unloved. Dealers offering discounts weeks after launch. Bikes being announced with fanfare online, then fading into silence as the real-world feedback rolls in. Meh. And riders? They're talking. Forums, YouTube, Discord groups, Reddit threads. The sentiment is spreading. Where's the soul? Why does this cost so much? What are they even thinking? The message is clear. Stop building bikes for spec sheets and start building them for riders. Because until the industry listens, the revolt will only grow, not with protests or outrage, but with quiet, decisive indifference. And in a market this fragile, that silence is deafening. What riders actually want. Here's the crazy part. This whole crisis of confidence in the 2025 motorcycle market could have been avoided. Why? Because what riders want isn't some deep, mysterious code to crack. It's not classified intel. Riders have been screaming it from rooftops, forums, YouTube comments, and bike nights for years. They want bikes that feel like bikes. Not an overcomplicated tablet on wheels. Not a rolling billboard for AI integration. Just something that makes your heart skip a beat when you twist the throttle. Something that gives you the giggles when you flick it into a corner. Something that makes you want to ride it to work, to the mountains, to nowhere in particular. Yet somehow, manufacturers keep missing the memo. The core desires are simple. Lightweight, affordable, engaging, reliable, and good-looking without trying too hard. Sounds doable, right? You'd think so. But instead, we've got 600-pound middleweight bikes, entry-level models creeping past 10 grand, and so much tech baked in that you're more focused on your dashboard than the road. And let's talk about character. Because that's another piece no one seems to be delivering anymore. These new bikes, they all feel like they were designed by the same 4 engineers using the same 3 wind tunnels. You could blindfold someone and sit them on a 2025 Kawasaki, Yamaha, Honda, or Triumph, and they'd be hard-pressed to tell them apart. There's a sameness that's settling over the industry like fog. Sure, the badges are different, but the bikes? The heart's gone missing. Even styling, which should be bold and expressive, feels painfully safe. You've got one camp trying to look like 1981 never ended, and the other going full Tron cosplay with futuristic shapes no one asked for. Where's the innovation that actually inspires? Where's the risk-taking that made people fall in love with motorcycles in the first place? And then you have the young riders, the group everyone says they want to attract, but no one's actually designing for. Today's 20-somethings aren't dreaming of 900-pound cruisers with chrome tailpipes and onboard Spotify. They want something nimble. They want something city-friendly. Something fun on the weekends but cheap to run Monday through Friday. And maybe, just maybe, something they can wrench on themselves without voiding a warranty or triggering a software lockout. Instead, they're served entry-level bikes that are heavier than their car, locked behind financing, and so wrapped in ride modes and electronics that they're afraid to touch anything. Want to adjust your clutch bite point or replace your indicators? Better hope you've got a dealer nearby and a spare credit card. What they really want is freedom. Not just the kind you get on an open road, but the freedom to mod their bikes, to tinker, to explore, to fail, to fix. They want something raw and responsive, not nerfed by 7 layers of safety features. Something affordable enough that they don't feel like they're gambling their future on a two-wheeled passion. And it's not just new riders either. Longtime motorcyclists are just as frustrated. Riders in their 30s, 40s, and 50s, the one who grew up on punchy twins and crisp handling sport bikes, look around and ask, where did the fun go? Why is every bike either a dumbed-down commuter or a hyper-expensive tech spaceship? There's a massive middle ground being ignored. Bikes like the Suzuki SV650, Yamaha FZ series, and Honda CBs used to own that space. Now it's either retro posing or digital overload. No sweet spot, no happy medium. So what do riders do? They hit Craigslist. They scoop up 5 to 10-year-old bikes that still have soul. They keep their old machines running. They build customs. They ride Chinese knockoffs. They'd rather risk reliability than risk buying something soulless. Manufacturers can fix this easily. Give us bikes that are affordable, lightweight, honest, and maybe even a little weird. Bikes with quirks, with charm, with real-world performance, not just spec sheet glory. Bikes that invite you in rather than intimidate or bankrupt you. Heck, bikes that don't require an engineering degree to change the oil. Because right now, no one's delivering. The passion's there, the riders are there, the demand is bubbling just under the surface, but the bikes? They're off in a tech-drunk daze, forgetting why people fell in love with motorcycles in the first place. And unless that changes soon, 2025 won't just be remembered as the year bikes sat abandoned at dealerships, it'll be remembered as the year the industry forgot the rider altogether. The soul of motorcycling is on life support. 2025 is a year that should have been full of roaring engines, bold designs, and bikes that made people fall in love all over again. Instead, we've got motorcycles collecting dust at dealerships like unsold Halloween candy in November. Not because people don't want to ride, but because the culture is fading. But because bikes themselves just don't speak to anyone anymore. They've become overcomplicated, overpriced, and under-inspired, lost in a storm of copycat designs, tech overload, and a bizarre obsession with features nobody asked for. The industry didn't miss the mark, it forgot what the target even was. But here's the thing, all is not lost. Riders haven't given up, far from it. The community is alive, passionate, and hungry for something real. There are still garage builders keeping the spirit alive, still meetups, rideouts, and DIY wrenches doing more with 15-year-old bikes than manufacturers are doing with billion-dollar R&D budgets. That spark hasn't died, it's just not coming from the factory anymore. If motorcycle companies want to survive, to thrive, they need to ditch the gimmicks and get back to the roots. Build bikes that are light, raw, expressive, and fun. Bring back emotion. Bring back feel. Stop chasing the latest screen tech and start chasing the experience of riding. Because at the end of the day, that's what motorcycling has always been about. Freedom, connection, rebellion, and joy. Until then, don't be surprised if 2025 motorcycles keep sitting in showrooms like museum pieces nobody wants to touch. And don't blame the riders, blame the bikes that forgot what riding is supposed to feel like. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. See you in the next video.